Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell. It is Tuesday, April 23rd, and we were looking forward to sharing a story about a woman who fell and hit her head, which then set off some concerning symptoms that took months to figure out. But due to an unrelated stomach bug, we are instead bringing you an encore presentation of one of our favorite episodes from earlier this spring. And once you hear from this patient, I think you'll see why we liked it so much. So enjoy, and we will be back tomorrow for Open Mics with Dr. Stites.
This was just a perfect place. Water is very calming to me, as is blue sky and trees and grass. And it's a good place to just be reminded that I'm loved.
Love and faith as her foundation. How this strong spirit stayed grounded on the path to survivorship. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. Faith and science are not on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And with a life or death diagnosis, the woman you're about to meet relied on both to pull her through.
I found a lump under my left arm, and initially I thought it was a swollen lymph node, but it continued to swell and stop and swell and stop, and then it just stopped going down, and I knew it was cancer.
Lisa Weatherspoon was right. Stage 3 triple negative breast cancer.
Yeah, I drew the short straw, right? You know, you got to start dealing with the possibility of your own mortality.
As a Black woman, her chances of dying from breast cancer were 40% higher than that of a white woman. But with family to live for, Lisa wasn't about to go down without a fight, even with the short straw and odds against her.
So that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when another young woman gets that same diagnosis, the statistics that she reads are better and brighter.
Lisa immediately entered into a clinical trial, something her breast oncologist at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, Dr. Lauren Nye, encouraged her to do.
Faith and science are not on opposite sides of the table, right? They are not, they can really coexist peacefully. I have a science background, and I am a deeply spiritual person.
This woman of faith found a way to incorporate the religious ideals of her Seventh-day Adventist upbringing.
I wanted to make good choices in terms of what I was putting in my body.
With the power of research and science.
They can really coexist peacefully. Being that this is a disease process that affects young African and Latina women, honestly, I thought somebody has to do the work, right?
She entered and completed the clinical trial, and this past year underwent a lumpectomy and chemotherapy, and under the care of radiation oncologist Dr. Carolyn Savio, recently finished her last round of radiation therapy. And with the sound of that bell signaling the end of treatment, Lisa is all about getting back to what she loves most, her girls.
My oldest wrote an English paper about the experience and her fear of losing her mom, and it was so difficult. I don't think they were able to imagine what life would be like. I mean, we're best friends. All three of us.
And in a full circle moment, we met her here at the place where she first came to get grounded and grasp her new diagnosis, only this time with a new view.
The only thing we know is that we're going to die. How do you make the most of what you have right now? How do you grow where you're standing? How do you find beauty in today, in this moment? That's your task.
And Lisa is here with me in studio this morning. So good to see you. How are you feeling?
I'm great.
Great and grateful.
Great.
I know
you're grateful.
How what's it like? I know you brought your daughters in with you this morning. Just what's it like to be here with them and just to reflect?
You know, as we pulled out this morning, we said a word of prayer and a prayer of gratitude. It's like, Lord, we're coming full circle. For years I'd imagine I'm going off to do work like this and bring my girls with me. And today, there's an opportunity to make a difference, to share my gifts and my experience. And it feels like we're crossing the line. into our new normal.
Well, and two women who helped cross the line with you, not just your daughters, but also two of your physicians. Dr. Lauren Nye is a breast oncologist at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, as well as the medical director of breast cancer prevention. She is joining us virtually, along with Dr. Carolyn Savio, a breast radiation oncologist at the Cancer Center, as well as the director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Department of Radiation Oncology. So, doctors, thank you so much for being with us today, here to share more about Lisa's story. But it's been about 3 weeks since you finished your last radiation treatment. We saw you ring the bell. Surviving cancer rarely means going back to 100%, as we know, really never. So how are you adapting to this new life post-treatment?
Honestly, for the most part, I feel pretty well. My life hasn't stopped very much. I have a mother with dementia that literally, I woke up from anesthesia of port removal surgery to a crisis with my mom. And I have been in the hospital with her for the last 2 weeks.
So life hasn't stopped, you just
nothing changes.
Keep going.
You just keep going. Now, here's the caveat, and this was the lesson that I believe I needed to learn. And I believe this is why the cancer came to me. I had to learn how to stop and take care of me. So when I get tired, I go to bed. I have to be intentional about the nutrition. So like last night, I was tired, but sweet potatoes are great for the neuropathy. And I also need it for the mental health because I was drained, and it's got lots of serotonin in it. I had some leafy greens, and I try to be very intentional about eating the rainbow every day. It doesn't happen every day in the way that I want it to, but
you're really taking a holistic approach to this when it comes to sunshine, being outside in the fresh air and nature, and eating right and getting the right sleep. Any other specific holistic health habits that you've been incorporating?
Your team, your family, your friends. And for me, my friends are family. I have a group of sisters, and they have been with me every minute of the journey. My children, Paul, my sister, oh my gosh. And so without this, I've got neighbors, who have made themselves available, but it's a whole network of people that you can trust with your energy and with your life, and reaching for joy. And
asking for help.
Yes.
So important, because people want to help and they don't always know how to do it. So never hesitate to do that. Dr. Nye, I know it's always great to be reunited with patients. So talk to us about Lisa's diagnosis, stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. What does that mean?
So a triple negative breast cancer is a more aggressive form of breast cancer that we see, and it means it does not have any of the estrogen, progesterone, or HER2 receptors on the cancer cell, which allow us to target it with certain therapies. So we end up needing to use chemotherapy and now immunotherapy to target this aggressive type of breast cancer.
So aggressive breast cancer means aggressive treatment. Lisa mentioned she had the worst case scenario, drew the short straw. Is that pretty much the case?
Yes, we've made great improvements over the last even just 5 years in the treatment of this type of breast cancer through these great clinical trials that we have, but it is still considered one of the most aggressive types of breast cancer that we see.
So surgery got the lump out, then there was radiation afterwards. But I want to talk about chemo. Lisa, you told us that you were trying to avoid chemo at all costs. What was the conversation you had with Dr. Nye about trying to avoid that route?
I spoke with Dr. Nye and questioned her very pointedly about alternative approaches to, can we do surgery? Can we monitor this? Are we going to be able to track what's happening in my body at a cellular level? And then, if it's determined that we've got to do chemo, we can do it at that point. So I can't say that I was absolutely opposed to chemo, but it was my very last resort.
So Dr. Nye, how do you balance that? A patient, they have wants, but there's also best medical advice that you share with them. How do you find that balance and have those conversations?
I think most individuals who get diagnosed with cancer do their due diligence and they look into alternatives, but the end goal on both sides is that they want to cure their cancer and they want it to go away and never come back. and we can talk through all of the options, and a patient is absolutely a full member of the decision-making team. But Lisa's goal was to get through this cancer and come out with the least toxicity on the other side and survive. And that was also my goal. So we were able to find the best therapy for her. Unfortunately, it did need to involve chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And unfortunately, she did endure toxicity with such bravery and trust. But at the end of the day, we were on the same page on our end goal.
So Lisa, you recorded some videos during your chemo sessions. Let's watch one of those.
Hey everybody, I'm doing my first chemo session. We're actually getting chemo now. I came up with a helpful mantra, which is the chemo is killing the cells, and God and nutrition in my body are rebuilding the healthy ones. So I finally found a good place.
So that's just one of several videos. Why was it so important for you to hit the record button and document this journey?
Well, there's a lot of people in my life that I needed to communicate with, but I didn't want to communicate with everyone directly. Telling that story again and again and again has a toll. And so I recorded it so those in my community who wanted to know how I was doing could get the message easily. And it allowed me to control the message. And I think that's important because other people can bring their negative energy to you, and that's not helpful. So I wanted to set the tone for the conversations that were being had about my experience.
So we know chemo often leads to hair loss. That's what we hear, and it's a struggle. You were wearing a cold cap. I got to ask what was on your head. Tell us about that experience. This was trying to help you prevent as much hair loss as possible, but eventually did lose your beautiful hair.
I did.
I totally dig your short hair. I hope this is a look you're loving because you look gorgeous. But what was this like? How did you emotionally let go of the hair?
I didn't lose my hair until the end. The cold capping worked for like 6-7 sessions. I mean, we were like 7 months into chemo.
You were hanging on to it.
I was hanging on to it. It was hanging in there. So cold capping is a therapy in which you use basically an ice helmet, and you apply it to your head. You can also use it for your hands and your feet to help prevent neuropathy. But what happens is those cells are cooled sufficiently so that less chemo impacts the hair follicles. And so what happens is you are actually able to save some of your hair follicles and you don't lose your hair.
But it came out, but you still kept the hair, right?
Yes.
What'd you do with it?
Well, it's actually wrapped neatly in a towel, and you know, I might use some black girl magic and reattach it when my hair is grown a little bit longer.
Go for it.
I don't know yet, because I don't know, this is a different look for me. And
because you've always had really long hair.
Down to my waist.
You look good. You can rock it either way. So tell us about surgery. What was that recovery like after the surgery?
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Wow, you don't hear that often.
Absolutely fabulous. It was the easiest leg of the journey. I am blessed. I have dear friends from New York, one of whom is a nurse practitioner. And I called him and I was like, I need help. I need you guys to come. His wife is a therapist. And they would probably be, if something ever happened to myself and Paul, they are probably like right at the top of the list, they and Andrea, my sister, of people that I want to raise my kids. So I'm greedy. And I took that opportunity to invite them down to help take care of me, but also to help build a bond between them and my children.
Great idea.
And I got the best Jamaican food, home cooked. I got excellent care from Kingsley. I got to socialize. My children got to spend time with Uncle Kingsley and Aunt Jacqueline. And it was fabulous. And I didn't need a whole lot of pain medication. I got a cute little perky pair of boobies out of it. It was all good.
You brought it up. Let's just go there, because you said with everything you've gone through, at least you got to keep them. Tell us about it, because this is a problem that a lot of women have, is just trying to find that balance of taking care of their health, but also wanting to stay looking the way they always did.
It was tough. I asked God if I could keep my hair and my breasts. And, but again, you know, this is not something I get to decide, but I do get to make the effort. So I made the effort with my hair, and by the time I lost my hair, I was at peace. With my breast, I was kind of on the fence. You know, I had quite a few conversations with the surgeons and with Dr. Nye, and there was a big part of me that was just kind of like, let's do a double mastectomy and move forward. But when we talked about the efficacy of, you know, a larger surgery and all of the possibilities for for infection and other implications, it honestly made more sense to go with a breast conserving approach. Also, for me, the lumpectomy along with radiotherapy gave me the same outcome. So in the midst of all of this terrible thing, you know, I had a rainbow that kind of gave me something that was important. Hair grows back, you know, your boobs, not so much.
They don't grow back, yeah. They grow in other places.
That's right.
So I want to talk about your radiation sessions and what it was like working with Dr. Savio. First, how many radiation?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. What was it like working with Dr. Savio? Because she really digs you and has gotten quite a kick out of having you as a patient.
Oh man, I love her.
I think the feeling's mutual, but what was so special about her?
Everything. We bonded. We had very similar experiences, you know, and I think both of us being women of color, she had a sensitivity to just, you know, the whole experience. You know, she's got young kids like I do. She lived a year abroad, and while I hadn't done that, I homeschooled my kids for 8 years. So we were kind of comfortable with this whole alternative education process that a lot of people don't understand. And, you know, she's just easy to talk to and relate to, honestly, as a friend.
Dr. Savio, I know all your patients are special, but you had a particularly special bond with Lisa. Tell us about it.
Oh, she is a dream patient to work with. She made it so easy for me to take the best care of her because she's awesome. She is highly engaged, aware, insightful about what she's going through, what she's processing, what she needs, and she takes excellent care of herself. And we just clicked a lot on a personal level beyond cancer and medicine. So it was super fun to be able to spend time with her. And she's one of those patients where you wish you could have coffee dates with her and catch up on life. And yes, we talk about radiation treatment, side effects, and what we can do to lessen them. But I actually learned so much from my patients about other things in life, and that's definitely the case with Lisa. And so it was such a pleasure to treat her and to work with her.
What kind of radiation did Lisa receive?
So she received what we call adjuvant radiation, where after a lumpectomy, her breast that was affected, as well as the regional lymph nodes, are targeted by the radiation treatment. And so we are selectively killing any microscopic cancer cells that are left over despite the surgery and chemotherapy. And that provides us with a 2/3 reduction in her having a recurrence, and it also extends her survival. So that's the treatment that she received.
Dr. Savio, you are the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Department of Radiation Oncology. We mentioned the racial health disparities earlier in the program. It is a multifaceted problem, as we know, but what can we do to improve the statistics and improve outcomes for people of color?
Wow, that's a big question, and we can spend a lot of time talking about that. But I think if we boil it down to the basics, and if we can think about what we can do, I'd like to think of it as a three-pronged approach. First, as as an individual, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and realize we all come with biases. We are so limited by the narrow life that we have led so far and the things that only we've been exposed to. So we have to be aware of our own biases and do the work to realize what your perspective is, how that would limit you in interacting with people of all different backgrounds, and daily figure out ways to minimize your own biases, right, as individuals. Two, as a physician, I make a huge effort to listen and listen intensely and ask a lot of questions to treat the patient as a whole, understand where they're coming from, why they have certain beliefs or expectations that may have been shaped by experiences that people around them may have had that might not be at all related to their particular cancer, but it's human nature to lump everything all together. And so as physicians, we need to listen, meet them where they are at, and take care of them as a whole, understand what's important to them beyond their cancer treatment outcome, and meet them there, right, and do our best to take care of them in that way. And then third, as a patient, I always encourage my patients to advocate for yourself, right? So sometimes it can feel foreign to ask questions or to raise a flag, and you may feel bad, or you may feel like, whatever. But that's how we know to take the best care of you, by communicating with us. If you need clarification, if you have concerns, please tell us so that we can address them and work as a team. It really is a partnership.
Dr. Nye, we know that clinical trials need better representation. So what was the main question trying to be answered in that clinical trial that Lisa was in?
So Lisa enrolled in a clinical trial that was for the neoadjuvant, the before surgery part of her chemotherapy. And that clinical trial is trying to answer the question of how do we deliver these drugs that we know help cure cancer but limit toxicity. So it's looking at a marker in the breast called tumor infiltrating lymphocytes, kind of those white blood cells that surround a tumor and we hope will attack and kill the cancer cells with the help of the immunotherapy. And so Lisa's enrollment in that clinical trial helps move forward with figuring out the best chemotherapy that's more individualized based on what that tumor looks like under the microscope. The other key factor to her participation is triple negative breast cancer is much higher in Black and African American women compared to Caucasian white women. And so by participating in a clinical trial, we're making that trial more representative of the population we're treating. So her participation was crucial to the future of medicine.
Lisa, what do you think can be done to improve these racial disparities in healthcare to help encourage women of all backgrounds to enter trials?
I think that's a three-pronged approach. I would echo everything that Dr. Sabio said, as well as what Dr. Nye said. One, I think as people understand that their participation is how you get representation, right? It's like voting. It's how you vote. It's how you make your voice heard, and it's how you make a difference, not only in your circumstance, but for someone else down the line. I have participated in medical research studies, actually, even before I was ill. I participated in studies at Loma Linda University because they wanted to track. I'm like, you don't have a lot of information about African Americans, so we don't know how different disease processes and medical treatments impact us in the same way. I do think it's important that we have more representation of people from all backgrounds, all social economic statuses, participating in the medical field, because that makes the relationships more open, I think. I think the parts that both Dr. Sabio and Dr. Nye mentioned about communicating with their patients is key. Being a good listener is critical. and hearing and understanding until you kind of get to that point where you know where you can open the door. And then on the part of the patient, I think the patient has to take personal responsibility for their health as well, and not only maintain their emotional and mental health, but do their part and do their research to understand what's happening. And then I think there's a place for people like me. You know, I know enough about the science to be able to communicate with people in the community. I've been a patient, and when people like me can go forward and talk to people, then that creates an opportunity to bridge a gap between two communities.
Let's get to some questions and comments from our viewers this morning. First off, Paul says, what a way to start the week. Your positivity is absolutely contagious. You are actively inspiring everyone watching. You are so brave. You are so smart. Go, Lisa. Georgianne says, what an incredible lady, perfect guest. Wish her well. So you are having the impact that you had prayed about this morning before you came on. So we appreciate you so much. Question is it true the BRCA gene is getting more common, Dr. Nye?
I don't know that I can say that it's getting more common, but we are getting much better at detecting it by testing everybody or almost everybody that comes in with a diagnosis of breast cancer. So the most updated recommendations have moved to testing anyone diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 65 or those with a family history. We know that the BRCA gene is more prominent in individuals with a triple negative breast cancer, but we still don't always find it.
Lisa, yeah, we know you have two beautiful daughters that are your best friends as well. You brought them here this morning, and here they are. What are you telling them about this experience?
We're going to get through it, and you're going to survive. You're resilient. You're strong. Eat well. Pay attention to your body. I'm encouraging them, even though I was BRCA negative, I have talked to them about, you know, starting mammograms early into their 20s. And being very vigilant. You know, they still have a history of breast cancer within their family, so I want them to be vigilant.
All right, let's get our takeaways today. Dr. Nye, I'll start with you. What do you want people to know?
I want people to take the spirit of Lisa, of listening to your body, advocating for yourself, asking questions, because I think that is what made our relationship in treating her cancer so powerful, was that we could have open conversations and honest conversations to meet her goals as well as my goals as her oncologist. And that was really powerful.
Dr. Savia, what's the takeaway today?
I have to echo what Dr. Nye said, in that Lisa was a dream patient because she was engaged, she was aware, she communicated well with us. So we made a really good team. So I think what she said was really insightful, in that patients also play a huge role in their outcome. And I think if we work together, that really helps us out quite a bit. And we all have the same goals. And so everything Lisa did and shared with us is basically what we would love to have in every patient.
I like what Dr. Nye said. You're equally a part of the medical team and giving your insight and your thoughts. So you did everything right. What is the big takeaway from your story?
I think I'd have to echo what they said. I would say get informed, be informed, manage your thoughts and your emotions, and build your team. And by that I mean the people that are going to support and encourage you, and curate that very carefully. But I think probably one of the most important things really is to partner. And if you don't have a doctor that's willing to partner with you, there's more than one. You can find a doctor that fits. I was blessed. Dr. Nye was wonderful from the beginning. I felt respected, I felt heard, and I tried to make the holistic practices that I was using work compatibly with what she was doing. I didn't want to fight what she was doing. We had worked together, as well as with Dr. Savoy. I wanted us to be partners, and we were. And I think in many situations, if you've got the right doctor, you really can create that partnership. And that partnership is what's going to save your life.
Such a pleasure to meet you. So good to have you with us today.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.